Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen just fine. So I can't see you guys, so I'm just gonna kind of hop into this and let you know how it goes. So just to give you a little bit of information about Cat Adoption Team, who we are. So we are southwest of the Portland metro area. We're in a small town called Sherwood. We're a nonprofit animal shelter, and we adopt about 3,000 cats. It depends on if it's a pandemic year or not. We had gotten way above that before our pandemic hit, but around 3,000 cats, kittens a year. We've got one full-time foster coordinator, 40 hours. And so just to give you some context, she's 40 hours in May, but in January, February, March, April, she has reduced hours and she gets worked into other parts of the shelter. And then she has 2 assistants, and they do everything from kitten admissions. So they're going to process all the kittens that are coming in and doing all that kind of stuff, do some administrative work as well. And they get about 33 hours. And again, that starts May 1st, and she does not have that assistant during what we call our slow season.
Okay, real quick, if you're take a look at your mute button. And if you can mute yourself,
emailing it, like, I'll take it outside, I get it.
And we'll just do that. Okay.
There we go. All right. We foster over 1,000 cats and kittens a year. It really depends again on a pandemic year, or excuse me, on a pandemic year or not, but around 1,000 cats and kittens. We hit a little bit higher in 2019, honestly, than we did before. And we are about 200 foster families, and those are confirmed foster families and not ones that we've just kind of held on to and we don't know if they've fostered or not. So they have had to have fostered at least once this year or just went through training on Saturday to get us to that number. We have 13 kitten mentors, and we'll talk a little bit more about those, 2 adult mentors, and 12 mentor assistants. So what does it take to be a mentor? For us, we want you to have some experience. We want you to have hopefully fostered a little bit of everything, maybe seen some upper respiratory diarrhea and appetence, maybe moms with kittens and orphans, things like that. We want you to have some emotional intelligence. We want you to be not only great with kittens and cats, but also we want you great with people as well and have some of those skills. We really need you to respect our protocols and to follow what we're asking that you do or what our veterinarian has allowed for you to do. We would like you to have empathy for what goes wrong. So we're looking for folks when something happens that is not so great that you've got to say, gosh, I'm really sorry, and don't go, why did you do that? And wait to have a tougher conversation later. Composed under pressure. So when you're thinking about your foster parents that might be able to fill this role, do they call you crying and freaking out, or are they like, hey, something's going on and I need some help? Do they have good problem solving skills? Do they know how to look for resources and think on their feet? And do they have a little bit of extra time? It does take a little bit of extra time. So let's talk about our kitten mentor responsibilities first. And a lot of these will flow over to the other ones as well, but they're going to need to take phone calls, texts, emails, something along those lines, and everyone kind of figures out their preference and talks to their foster families about what their preference looks like. Can they recognize illness? So when they see a snotty nose or weepy eyes or something like that, can they say, hey, I'm starting to notice this or that? Do they know how to treat illness per our policy that our veterinarian has put together, and follow exactly what she has put together to the letter of the law and not go on to their own ideas? Are they willing to do vaccines? And this one's negotiable, and we'll talk about this kind of towards the end, but ideally we would like for them to know how to do vaccinations, sub-Q fluids, those types of things. They need to have a stocked mentor bag because they do go to homes. We've allowed that to start happening again if the foster parent and the mentor are both comfortable with that. Before the pandemic, that was a norm for us. During the pandemic, nobody went to anyone's home, so we did it all virtually, and it works. So we kind of have a hybrid model going on right now. Do they know how to get kittens to eat? Because we know how kittens sometimes are picky little fussy eaters. Do they know our foster rules and policies? And do they elevate those concerns to the right people instead of just trying to tackle it on their own? And for us, really, they're the eyes and ears of our medical team. So they're there looking at, seeing kittens, and can kind of give good information to our either foster coordinator, medical team, anyone else. So our adult mentor responsibilities, they have a shared email account. So as where our kittens mentors are individually working with their own foster families that they've decided to sign up for, our adult mentors are different. We have 2 of them. They have a shared email account. And because adult cats typically aren't in emergent care, we can do most things by email. So it's usually things like, my cat's doing this or that, or it's not liking this or that, and they're not emergency type situations. So they can wait a couple hours to get an email back, not a problem. They know our foster rules and policies. They can do initial consults for behavior and medical things. So if they have a socialization adult, they can start to give them advice or work with them on tips and tricks. If they're having a medical concern, they can follow our protocols and start to put things into place. They also can elevate to our on-site vet team. So we have veterinarians on site 5 days a week, but we have hospital staff there 7 days a week. So if they get to a point where they're like, you know, I really feel like this adult needs to be seen, they know how to elevate to our shelter team to be able to look at those animals. If they do have a true emergency, this is like really needs to be seen right now, we use the Vet Plus More app, and they get 24 access to veterinarians. It's $2 for however you're going to do it, either a phone call, a video call, or text message, and it's for the one encounter. So if they do really have something going on and our hospital is not open at the time or they don't have access, we have the foster parents do the Vet Plus More app. And it does get a little bit of use, but not much. And so for us, it's well worth the $2. It beats an emergency room visit anytime. Kitten mentor assistants. So they aren't mentors, but they're not foster parents. They've learned a few other tips and tricks, and they're going to support both sides. So they are the ones that are able to do vaccines and sub-Q fluids. So your mentor doesn't necessarily have to do that. Your mentor assistants can go and run and do those things. And they are also, again, the eyes, ears, and sometimes the hands for the mentor. So if they go over maybe to do vaccines and they're like, these kittens don't look great, they can get on a video call with the mentor. The mentor can start to look at things in our protocols and get them started right on track. It also helps your mentors if they're trying to give expert advice to 10 foster families and they all have vaccines due within 7 days. That's a lot of running around. So the mentor assistants can kind of help with that. We also did vaccine hubs during the pandemic. So the foster parents would drive to whoever was doing the vaccine, leave the carrier on the doorstep, step back. They would grab the carrier, take the kittens inside, do their vaccines, same process in reverse, set them on the doorstep, they pick them up and go away, so no one was entering homes or touching anyone, and that worked really well for us too. We give everyone a mentor bag full of a gazillion supplies, and if you want the list, I'll show you where you can find the list of all these supplies, but as you can see, they get a lot of extra stuff that our foster kitten bags don't have in them. So these are things like sub-Q fluids, different kinds of medications, extra medications, and a little bit of everything under the sun, just so that they can take care of them one and done. We do mentor brunches to keep our mentors and our mentor assistants together. So we have a brunch quarterly. We get together now virtually, but when we're all ready, we'll get together back in person. We do potluck food, and it's a lot of fun. We have a little bit of a social time for people just to get to know each other or reconnect with each other. And then we go over topics and a little bit of CE. Our medical director is invited to come and typically makes every meeting. I go to all of the meetings. Our foster coordinator is there, her assistants are there. And it's just a time for us to make sure we're all on the same page. We're handing out supplies then, and we're just figuring out like what's working with the program. Is there something not working? Our mentors and mentor assistants see it in action way more than we do. So if we're missing a piece of information or a training opportunity, they're the ones that are telling us, hey, this is working, or hey, this is not working and we need something different. It's a great feedback tool for us to use on a consistent basis instead of just waiting once a year for when we do it with our foster parents. This way we're getting it 4 times a year. So we really appreciate that. So how do you start a mentor program for your shelter today? There's lots of ways to go about doing this, and you won't jump into right where we are right now. Everyone needs to grow their program. And the easiest way, in my opinion, is just to get some folks to start taking phone calls. Because I don't know about your shelter, but typically our foster coordinator is getting a lot of emails and phone calls about things that could be handled by someone else. She now has an out of office email responder that has like FAQs or just little bits of things. So anytime you email and you're like, I can't remember how to post a pet finder, well, you're going to get an automatic email back from her that's like, here's all the things that most people ask me about all the time. And here's where you find out this information. So she doesn't then have to respond to those. But what we're hoping for is that those are actually moving to the mentors anyway. And the mentors are getting those kinds of things. So get those off your plate first, get people to answer some phone calls for you, and then start figuring out how do we get some vaccinations done so that we're not bringing those animals back every 2 weeks and stressing them out or possibly exposing them. How do we get those done out in foster care? How do we get sub-Q fluids done out in foster care? You're going to save yourself not only a lot of staff time, this is money and budgeting and stuff. If you can save yourself time, can you get an assistant? Something else, you know, to help with things, because I know everyone's overwhelmed, but if you can cut down on your emergency room visits, they're expensive. If you can cut those down, it's a huge thing. So start looking at your foster parents. Who do you trust? Who do you like to work with? Who are good with people? That's the big one. Just because they're super knowledgeable about cats and kittens, or they can, you know, bottle feed anything under the sun and pull anyone around that corner, doesn't mean that they're going to be a good mentor. In fact, they shouldn't probably be a mentor if they're not good with people, because they can do damage to your program. So really think about who's someone who's good with people. I trust them. I like to work with them. My hospital team likes to work with them. The veterinarian likes to work with them, all of those kinds of things. And do they have a little bit of free time? Can they help us out? And that's basically what I think could be the easiest way to help you guys get a little bit of free time, get some of that workload off of you, and also get to see those animals out there. How are they doing? I hear from a lot of people saying, I want to do the vaccines every 2 weeks so I can see what those animals look like. I want to make sure they're doing well. Trust other folks, build your team, train them well, and trust them to be your eyes and ears. So we have a lot of information about our foster program that we have up on our website for anyone to go and see and take and hopefully steal. We want you to steal our information and use it for your own. And just because everything is built for cats and kittens doesn't mean that you can't just change it or add to it and add dogs in or rabbits or anything else that you want to add into this program. But when you go to our website, you'll see everything that we have: foster training, mentor training, all our forms, all of our documents. Anything that we use in the foster program, for the most part, is sitting up here on this website, and it is put into in a way where it says your organization and insert logo here. So all you do is do the find replace, and you put find your organization, and then you type in your organization's name, and it goes through our documents and it replaces everything for you. And then that way you can just take it and run, or you can cut out pieces that you're like, really like this, I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to take it and run with it. So we want you to use it as much as you want it or as much as you need it. So just know that it's out there. We are going to be updating all of our documents as we are moving through the fall and winter. So at some point we will put on there that everything is new and updated. You'll notice when you go to download the documents that they'll say 2020 on them. So you'll know when they're new because they'll have a new date behind them. we're getting those ready for our online course that we're going to be doing, which will be later in 2022. And then we're going to have our Maddie's Fund apprenticeship running at the beginning of 2023. So you can also look for those opportunities well, and then you'll get a little bit more information from us as we go through those courses. They tend to have even more things on them, so we encourage you to be on the lookout for those and sign up if you are interested. And if you have questions, you can ask me, or you can go directly to our foster coordinator. I know sometimes people like to talk to their peers and say things like, all right, does this really work? Is this really how this happens? And can you help me out? And Mary is our foster coordinator, and she does a fantastic job, and she'd be more than happy to chat with any of you about our mentor program. So that's my whirlwind, super fast, hopefully, TED Talk for you guys on our mentor program.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much. It really helped to be able to see the like how you choose them. And I'm guessing that you guys do like one-on-one kind of, you kind of pull them aside somehow and be like, we're looking for mentors. I don't know. How do you usually initiate it?
So what we usually do now that we have mentors and mentor assistants established, we actually ask them, out of all the foster parents you work with, who do you think would be a good mentor or mentor assistant? We also will open post a job description to everyone and say, hey, you know, we're interested in looking for this, and we really drill home those key things that we're looking for from them so that they can decide, am I really good with people, or maybe I don't want to talk to people a lot, so maybe I shouldn't do this, you know. And it's not for everyone, right? Because it is the human aspect of it. So we that's what we do now. So we're kind of like headhunters in a way, looking to fill our jobs and out there searching. Other times we'll just say, hey, we're going to hold a vaccine and sub-Q clinic for foster parents because they can learn how to do it themselves. And then when they go through it, our foster coordinator will identify some folks and say, hey, you know, you're really great and you're really good with people, and now you know how to do these things. Any chance you want to be a mentor assistant? And then we kind of get them in there and they're doing mentor assistant stuff for a while. And we're like, how about you become a full-fledged mentor? And then we kind of elevate them. We have volunteers who have been with us for over 10 years, quite a few of them. And they like the continuing education and the ability to kind of advance in their volunteer role. So we promote it like that this is like an advancement, you know, a promotion, and people really appreciate that.
That is awesome. Really cool. Do y'all have any questions?
I have one question. Are the monthly or the quarterly meetings, those are open to all foster caregivers or just mentors?
Those are our mentor and mentor assistant meetings. So we're just meeting with those folks at that level and kind of talking about how is it going with the program and your foster parents, your workload. Are you guys seeing things that maybe we're not seeing, or do you need different training tools that we maybe we haven't given you that you're now thinking that you need? So it's just concentrating on that group of mentors and mentor assistants to support them and make sure that they're doing okay in their jobs.
Thank you.
How do you assign them? Do you assign them, or do they get to pick their mentees?
They get to pick. So we ask that they pick mentees in their area for when we do go to homes, but it's no longer required because we have so many mentor assistants that can go to the home to do vaccines, sub-Q fluids, or even video chats or anything like that. But we put them on a Google map, and our foster coordinator pins all the addresses so people can open the map and look where these people are near them. And then they choose, do I want to add 2 people this month? Do I want to add 10 people this month? Can I not add anyone? It's completely up to them to choose their workload so that we're not overwhelming them. So for us, it can limit the amount of fosters that we take in at any particular time. But honestly, when people see the list shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, there's just a few foster parents left, other people pick them up.
It was amazing. Giuliani, did you want to ask your questions?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you for the you're talking about foster, the mentor assistant, going to the home and giving vaccine and all that kind of stuff. In terms of liability, are they covered by the nonprofit or because you said that are they really professional, or they just volunteer that you taught them how to do all these procedure kind of thing?
Yep, they're volunteers who have gone through training at our shelter's hospital. So they go through the training with us.
Okay.
Because the animals are owned by Cat Adoption Team, they do fall under our veterinarian's license and under our nonprofit.
Oh, I
And
see.
so they're owned by us. They're not privately owned animals. If they were, then we
Right,
would
right.
not be able to do this. But because we do own the animals, then they can go out and do those types of things, just like they can authorize the start of amoxicillin or tobramycin, or those types of things. It's because our veterinarian has written up protocols, has them in place. These people have been trained on how to use them. They have written procedures just like our hospital team has. They're the exact same things, and then they follow them to a T. So it's really no different than when our vet assistants are working on the weekends without a veterinarian on site and they're following our protocols.
Mhm.
The exact same type of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's really nice to be able to do that. Yeah.
It is. It saves a lot of time and stress and money by going to emergency room visits, because we're able just to give that same great quality of care, whether they're in a foster home or whether they're in a kennel at the shelter.
I'm just muting because my dog is whining for his walk.
Do you just use a spreadsheet to show like which fosters have a mentor so they can see who doesn't, or what program do you use for that?
So our foster coordinator does use Google Sheets. She has everyone loaded into there, and she keeps that for a lot of different information. So she has easy access to who's had training on stuff. If they've had, like a recent really bad foster experience, maybe they had really sick kittens, or maybe they had a kitten pass, then she can kind of keep some notes on it. We use Shelter Buddy and Volgistics for other types of things, but this is her preference, that she likes to have it all in one place where she can easily access everything. So it shows on there who is the mentor for each foster family, who is their mentor assistant in the area that they typically use, that kind of information. And that is also on our website in an Excel form. You can see the template and see what's up there, but you can make it into a Google Sheet if you want to too.
How do you go about, we have a mentor program, but it's kind of like paused at the moment. It was kind of quickly done. And so the people who were chosen to be mentors in the past, I don't feel like they are strong mentors, and I don't know how exactly to teach them to be better mentors. As far as being good with people and having the confidence.
It's tricky, right? So I think having the confidence in their skills goes back to just basic training, like maybe send everyone through training again. And then the other way to build skills is have them go into the shelter when it's time to do preventative care on the adult cats, or have them go in when they're doing spays and neuters on shelter cats. When they're under, they can do all sorts of things and the animal isn't moving, right? Because it's under anesthesia, it's coming out. And so have them practice in-house a bunch and just get used to it. And then, maybe have them work with the foster coordinator to do some vaccine appointments if the kittens are coming in for those, and have the foster coordinator there, but then have the mentor, okay, I'm gonna get my vaccines ready. I'm gonna do this litter of kittens, and just have them practice. So it becomes really second nature for them. As far as the people stuff goes, you can find a lot of webinars that talk about good customer service and having really good people skills and being empathetic and listening. Being really good listeners is important, because you'll hear foster parents tell you stuff and you're like, oh, wait, that's what's happening. And it'll help you figure out the pieces to the puzzle. But if they're just bristly or kind of sharp or a little bit rough, those are a little bit harder to train new social skills with. And maybe those folks are really great mentor assistants. Maybe they'll be really great at doing vaccines and sub-Q fluids, but maybe they're not the ones to offer advice or do grief counseling or do any of those other trickier things. So you can always look at having people in different tiers. We have people in mentor assistant roles that we would not promote to mentors, but they do well in their job now. And if they chose to take and learn new skills, then they could potentially go there, but they don't want to. So we just leave them at the mentor assistant level.
Makes sense. Any other questions?
Sorry, last one.
Okay.
How does the mentors communicate to the coordinator? Like, or does the coordinator pretty much just like they handle everything, and unless they need help, then they contact the coordinator?
So we have a couple of ways where they do coordinate information. So we've got a Google form. Anytime anything is done with a foster cat or kitten, the Google form needs to be filled out. It auto-populates a spreadsheet, and then we have volunteers who enter that into Shelter Buddy so that we keep track of like who got fluids or who started medication or who had whatever done. So there's that information that's happening. And then our mentors have a Google group. And so they can ask questions of each other. If they're like, hey, I'm stumped, it's not emergent, you know, I just need to talk to someone else, so they can kind of communicate with each other that way. But if they're having problems, like maybe there's non-compliance issues, or maybe a foster parent decided to do something that maybe they shouldn't have, maybe they took their kittens outside and let them run around their yard, and we don't allow that. And so, you know, if they're having those types of issues, they would contact the foster coordinator directly. They can email or they can call her. She's very good about letting everyone know her office hours and not doing stuff after hours, because we don't want her to do that. And our mentors also have an on-call mentor system program. They're on call for 7 days at a time, 24/7, before they hit the on-call managers. And we rotate on call for 7 days. We're on call for 24/7, 7 days. And each one of those systems has at least 4 people. So you're on call once a month or I'm on call once every 7 weeks. So it's not very often, doesn't burn me out, doesn't fry us. So that part's really nice too.